There is a meme going on the social media that says something along the lines of you will never be replaced by AI, you will be replaced by people using AI.
You're
Absolutely,
absolutely
right?
right. You're absolutely right. Welcome to the AI Space Podcast, where we strive to encourage and empower AI founders, innovators, startups, and businesses to drive innovation and scale their initiatives with game-changing insights. I'm your host, Sanjay Kalluvilayil, founder and CEO of Stonehaas Advisors, a consultancy focused on helping businesses to grow, transform, and scale to new levels and dimensions leveraging AI. This is our fourth episode, and we're thrilled to have Luigi Lenguito, a renowned AI innovator, founder and CEO of BforeAi. Luigi is a visionary leader in the cybersecurity sector, known for his innovative approach to predictive threat intelligence. Under his leadership, BforeAi has developed PreCrime, a cutting-edge platform that uses behavioral AI to detect and neutralize malicious campaigns prior to business debilitating attacks. Today we'll discuss AI democratization, empowering businesses and unique experiences, business scaling, cost-effective strategies to grow your business, technology challenges, integrating AI into cybersecurity, ethical and responsible AI, balancing innovation, and then encouragement, final insights and thoughts. So, Luigi, here on the AI Space podcast, we highlight game-changing insights that drive innovation and scale business initiatives. What insights have you seen in the last year that founders are using to scale up their businesses?
Well, first of all, Sanjay, thank you very much for the invite. It's a really honor to be with you and with your audience. Really excited to do this. So to answer your question, I think the last couple of years we have seen a lot of push for increased productivity. It probably started all around when Elon Musk bought, Twitter and let go 80% of the people of the company, right? And there is this kind of new ethos about, how do we scale more automation and capability in AI came about the same time. So what I've observed, definitely in the last 9 months is that finally we're starting to see the first actual improvements of business processes driven by generative AI tooling or other sort of, something that before was more concentrated on the programming and coding aspects of a product. Now it's translating also in customer service, sales, marketing, operations, you name it, right? I'll give you an example. Just a few weeks ago, I've always had this very huge pain of managing my inbox. I have probably an average of 500 email hitting it every day. And, how do you find the one you need to answer on the spot in this constant flow of noise? And so I adopted a tool that actually integrates with my inbox. It does auto filing, so it moves, the things that you can read later in other folders. It deletes the things that need to be deleted, and it prepare an answer already with a positive and a negative answer to the email that require an answer, so that you just have to remove what is unnecessary and send. Right? I'm saving about 3 hours a day in reading email. It's been a game changer for me. And I think, this is kind of a single, person example, but I'm seeing my team, we have implemented in our Slack channels and an agent that we call Agatha, and people ask Agatha a question about, our product, our code, our processes, and Agatha go and find the information from all our content, across the different places where we have it in Google, in Slack, in Confluence, in Jira. And so it's becoming actually one of the most active player in our Slack channels, this AI agent. And it helps because now people don't have to go spending time finding for this information across all these different media. They get it immediately. So knowledge management become much more effective. So I think these are some examples. I'm sure every entrepreneur and any company would have different ones, but it's definitely now turning from the phase of, oh wow, what an exciting technology, into, wow, we really can get this value out of it. We can go quicker, we can go faster, we can spend less efforts on it.
I think that's important that you talk about that in business. As you're scaling a business, when you're sometimes by yourself, you said, I remember when I would be very responsive to emails, but if you're focusing on your high payoff activities, the things that are really going to grow your business, I mean, you need to focus on those. And sometimes those things, like if you have a high volume of emails, that takes you away from selling, from strategy, other types of things. But it's also important to respond to emails, especially the ones that are important. But the fact that you're able to filter that, automate that, that's great. Is that something you built or you bought off the shelf, or how did you approach that?
No, this is actually another tool that I found on some posts on LinkedIn, and definitely a great discovery.
Yeah, and those are some of the things I'm working on too, actually, some of the automation, because I realized to be more responsive to folks, I have to either get up earlier or respond later at night and schedule some of those things. So that's great. So, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got here? What led you on into this foray into AI and founding before AI?
I mean, this is a very long story, so but I'll make it quick. So I started with computer when I was 4 years old. My father put me in front of the first IBM PC that arrived in the south of Italy, and believe it or not, I still use the keyboard from that computer. Is here in front of me, 43 years later, still
Which
working.
computer was that?
Is a IBM PC 5150. The big white
Oh
one.
yeah,
The square screen, black and green, stuff like that.
yeah. I had a
And
PC. I had a PC Junior.
there you go. And so, I really got in love with programming basic at the time and, creating my own games. And, I'm a self-taught person on IT. And was lucky when I was 21, I got hired by Dell. So 25 years ago, I was hired by Dell Computer here in France for basically providing technical support to Italian customers. They said I was one of the few that knew Windows NT at the time in Italy. So I moved to France. I stayed then 18 years at Dell Computer, doing all sorts of different roles from management to sales to marketing, technical, product development, product management, merger and acquisition. And then eventually I ended up being vice president of sales for the software activities, including cybersecurity product. They got spun off and created as a separate company called Quest Software, where I stayed another year. And then in 2017, I was, basically celebrating my 40 years old. I always had dreamed to retire at that age. And that's what I did. I took my notice. I left. I went back to my other passion, the speed. I used to be a Formula 3 driver when I was a kid. So I literally went back on track, with my cars on circuits in Europe. And as I was doing that, I was thinking about the next venture, and I thought, I need to do something in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity at the time, it was the start of this detection and response, assume breach concepts. And I thought, this is gonna be going on the extreme of reactivity. I need to build something that will balance it with proactivity. And thankfully, was invited in a research program where I met the researchers and my co-founders and found the technology PreCrime that then has been the source of building BforeAi.
That's amazing. So you lived in Italy, France, the U.S., anywhere else?
US, no,
So
lived no,
I
but
guess you speak Italian,
I
French, and English.
and Spanish and Russian, yes.
Oh wow,
So yeah, I've been
molto
I've
bene.
absolutely, and yes, but I lived in these three countries, but probably traveled to 100 plus so far. So
It's amazing. Well, I think your story is encouraging, especially you said you started out in tech support, but people don't realize when you're doing that kind of work, you're actually get a lot of skills. You're learning from the
mm,
customer, learning problem solving. You have to learn how to be proactive. Um, deal, be patient, take some abuse, right? So you get
very
all some thick skin, right? But the good thing is that
absolutely.
as you elevate, you take those learnings and you actually have real world learnings, especially from the clients or customers or whatever, so that when you're developing strategies or sales techniques, you're able to embody that into what you do. Can you expound to others about that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, first of all, it was at the time I was very lucky because Dell was starting that activity, and so it wasn't really busy. When you are on tech support, you get measured on how many phone calls you get a day, how many cases you close a day, what's your rate of mistakes, and things like that. And the first year, probably I was taking one or two calls a day. I mean, it was super light as a job. And so I was spending a ton of time learning because I was in this contact center, plenty of technology, right? We had all the example of all the computer server storage. And so it was for me a fantastic learning opportunity. But then to your point, as the volume started to come up, I had to learn how to treat these customers, right? So that we got a lot of training on soft skills and listening skills, and how do you de-escalate, irate customers, and these are things that you can use in any situation, and definitely still today, 25 years later, I still see, me using some of those learnings. I think, I was very lucky that Dell was a true meritocracy. So, you know, you deliver, you get promoted, you move on. So I very quickly moved from tech support into training other in tech support, and then into managing the training, and then into all the other roles that I got. But I think that customer listening skills that I got at the time. I remember that Michael Dell would very often say, "Remember, you have two ears and one mouth, so listen twice as much as you speak." I think it's a great kind of rule of thumb for dealing with other people.
No, that's great. I think the skills that are very important across the world and in societies: listening, right? Understanding. I think the key word you said at the end is de-escalating. I don't think in this new society we're very good at de-escalating things. So it's always about escalating things and taking it to the next level, right? And I think that's something we need to focus on, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of the problem is that this animosity that social media encourage, because the algorithm used the kind of the emotional aspect, right, to push more content to get you hooked onto it and so on. That is, I think, what's driving the fire of escalation, because people just get continually pumped in dopamine and adrenaline with all these excitement from different medias. But yeah, you're right. It's definitely, you know, if you have someone around you that can de-escalate things, it generally make your life better. So
So tell our audience a little bit more about your business. And I've heard you've got some partnerships and awards. So get into a little bit of that too.
sure. So yeah, before AI, so we are in cybersecurity space. What do? We do is we predict sources of future cyber attacks, and we block them before the attack starts. Our prediction tend to be a median 3 weeks before the attack starts. We get them right 99% of the time, and we guarantee those predictions. So if we get it wrong, we cover the cost that the customer incur in the attack up to 10 times the value of our contract. It's a similar to a weather forecast system, but for the internet. So instead of waiting for the attack to happen and do something about it, we tell the customer upfront before it happens so that they can be prepared. And in most cases, we actually stop those attacks 90% of the time before any content is loaded on the infrastructure. So before any victim is made, we call it PreCrime. Some people in the audience may remember this movie, Minority Report, from Steven Spielberg with Tom Cruise. The story of the mutants in the pool that could see the future of crime, the pre-crime police that would jump in the scene and block criminals before crime was made, and that's where the inspiration sort of come from. And that's what we deliver today. We have very large customers, from manufacturing companies like Signify and Philips to banks like Volksbank or Banca Progetto, and many others in the US that I cannot name, social media platforms, and many other different sector. The largest utility, electricity utility in the US, is covered by BforeAi. So definitely a new way of looking at cybersecurity that historically has been extremely reactive, but we're bringing these preemptive activities. And indeed, we have been recognized by Gartner, that is one of the largest analyst firm, with the cool vendor label that is kind of the pinnacle for companies that are emerging. So cool vendor for utilization of AI in financial sector, so banking and insurances, only cybersecurity firm. We have been named in the top firm by Cynet 16. That is another kind of organization that focus specifically on cybersecurity. We have made the list of the top 50 of the information that is, a newsletter in the Silicon Valley, all about growing companies, and definitely our growth. It's quite remarkable. We just closed our Series B. Not even 6 months after the Series A. So even from an investment perspective, we are very well recognized. And then growing about 20% of revenue every month. So an extremely hectic time for BforeAi now.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, kudos to you on your Series B. For those in the audience that are just getting this space, can you explain maybe pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B, and how you get there, right?
Absolutely. So you start with an idea and a project. So you start going around, trying to find who could be a potential customer and so on. In general, at that early stage, you are alone with your co-founders, and you may need some money to do some marketing spend, some, creating the website, the usual suspect of early phases. So that is what's called a pre-seed, as in before there is any sort of revenue. Generally, you go to your family, to your friends, maybe an accelerator like Y Combinator or Techstar or
Or your
the many
savings or
others that exist.
retirement account or whatever.
Absolutely, that was my case, for example. And then you get that 200K, 300K, 500K, whatever you can get to. Generally, you give away no more than 10% of your company at that stage, and then you start working it. You hire the first few people in the company, some coders, some maybe a marketeer, and you start finding the first early customer. This customer will have to pay something because you want to make sure that they have budget, that what you're solving as a problem is a problem that people pay for. But of course, it's going to be very anecdotal, and you're probably going to get around, say, $10,000 to $20,000 a month in revenue. And at that stage, you raise a seed round. The seed round tend to be between 3 and 5 million in the US, between 1 and 3 million in Europe. And it's really now institutional investors, early stage investors that put the money there. You generally give away around 15 to 25% of the company as a part of the deal. And what do you do with this money? Well, you start hiring more developers, maybe the first one or two salespeople to help the founder make the sales, some business development managers, and so on and so forth. And you push to get to the stage where you have, above 100 to 200K ARR per month. So you are in that 1 to 3 million recurring revenue at that point. And generally, for if you are on the right venture path, right? If your company is interesting for venture capitalists, is because you go through this step, where each step it takes 12 to 18 months, basically, right? And so 12, 18 months later of this series seed, you do a Series A. A Series A can be anything between 8 and 50 million. It really depends on the sector. It's what you need, right? So you have to do a business plan, understanding how you're going to spend this money. Once again, you give away about 20% of the company for that amount. And okay, so now you're sitting on 10, $15 million. What do? You scale your sales process, right? That really is the next focus. You make it repeatable. You hire sales team, a sales leader. You are still, as a founder, obviously involved in the process. You have more developers. The product become more standardized. It's more visible. The brand. You start to attend events. And then continue that till you have maybe you are above, let's say, the 400, 500K ARR. So we have demonstrated now that you are 400, 500K per month. So you are, probably around 5 to 6 million, 10 million, 5 to 10 million, let's say, annual revenue rate. And so now you have demonstrated you can repeatably, regularly repeat your sales process. You have identified your ideal customer profile. That's the Series B round. And there, this one have a very wide range. It can be anything between, I don't know, 30 and $100 million. you probably give away only 10% at that stage. It's a bit less, less generous for the investors. And it continues, right? Then at that stage, you may be acquired later on. You can continue do Series D, E, F, and so on. Go to IPO. But I think your focus is more on that early phases. So, and I haven't been there, so I cannot explain it.
No, that's amazing. That's a great answer, because, Luigi, that's why we started this show. So
Uh-huh.
that AI founders, people that are trying to get in this space, that try and drive innovation, scale their business, that they can get valuable insights. So I know our audience is going to really gain a wealth of knowledge from you today. So before we, continue, I want, to invite everyone to follow Luigi, like, comment, subscribe to the AI Space podcast, and that helps us grow to have more impressive guests like Luigi. Question for you back on, the predictive aspect of it. I'm sure some people are wondering, do you have some sort of special orb, crystal ball, or palantir to predict this stuff, or what's the technology? What's the predict? How are you able
So
to predict this, right?
I'll give you the secret first and then the actual answer. The secret is the company originally was started in France in a city called Montpellier. This is the city of Nostradamus, the guy that wrote the book, The Centuria, with all the prediction for the future. And I found that book under my house when I bought the house. No, I'm joking. It's obviously not the case. The technology use not generative AI, right? That is what everybody is focused on in the last couple of years. We use prescriptive AI. That is another branch of the machine learning and deep learning activities. And so this, what do we do technically? Very similar to weather forecast. We collect the data from the internet. We are looking at all the networking information, so routing, naming, addressing. So we're not scraping the websites. We're looking at the underlying activity that's happening on the network. This information is snapshot multiple time every hour and then converted by machine learning in behaviors over time for all the infrastructures connected to the internet, right? So we see all the server, how they move, what they do, and so on. And so we end up with a big database of how those machines are moving on the internet, more than 5 billion behaviors collected over the last 5 years. And then we train with supervised learning the system to recognize good behavior from bad behavior. We give examples, like to a kid, of good infrastructure and bad infrastructure, and the database retrieve all their behaviors and then it train itself for proximity. And what is happening is that the system is identifying the pattern of modification or creation of infrastructure that the criminal go through because of their scripts, because of their DevOps. And so now we have this database that is split between the light side of the force and the dark side of the force. With the same data, we're going to look for behavioral change. So that infrastructure that started 6 months ago on a good behavior and then suddenly now is deviating and getting closer and closer to the bad behavior, or maybe an infrastructure that started 3 weeks ago, went silent, and now it activates on a bad behavior. And so our systems, we have 4 patents that have been granted, more than 10 years of technology development. Basically, what happens is by the time we see this behavior getting very close to the known good and known bad, and we issue what we call the PreCrime score. That's where we are 3 weeks in advance from the attack. And with this information that is about that infrastructure that will be future source of attack, we send it through an API into our customer systems, firewall, anti-phishing filters, and the likes, and they will block communication. Now, the beauty of cybersecurity is if you don't have network connectivity, there is no possible attack. So we're really looking not much at the attack itself, but at the infrastructure from which the attack will be carried. And we give information to our customer to stop communicating with that so that they cannot get impacted. And as we do it before the attack starts, no victim is made by crime.
Great, great. I know a lot of people are familiar with generative AI in a sense because of the chat GPTs of the world. It's, generating new content, new text, is predicting the next sequence of words based on probabilities, etc. You talked some words like, prescriptive, machine learning, so the machines are trying to, they're scouring over the data, they're recognizing patterns, they're trying to make predictions. You added a term called supervised learning. So maybe go a little bit into supervised learning. What exactly is that for the folks in the audience?
Yeah, I think, just to to give a frame of thinking to this, right? At a high level, you have three big categories of algorithms. You have descriptive AI, that are all the algorithms that are looking at a set of data and giving a summary, right? And this has been, something that's been very used, in the last 20, 30 years. So machine learning, deep learning, these are all about, it's all about the machine scavenging the data and extract information. Then you have generative AI. Generative AI is about creation, to your point. So you use certain data as a base to create new data. So the output of generative AI did not exist before, right? And so in that you have large language models, adversarial networks, and many other type of algorithms of the sort. And so here now you have description, you have generation, creativity. Now you want foresight. That is where prescriptive analytics or prescriptive algorithms come into play. So here you have things called like random forest, belief propagation, where basically what's happening is the system is analyzing a set of data and forecasting the next version of the data, right? With a certain degree of precision, false positive, false negative, and so on. But the objective here is to take the next best decision, right? So an original example of this would be predictive maintenance, where you decide to replace a part in a plane before the part breaks. It may be, next recommendation, like at Netflix or Amazon. When you go online, you buy something and they tell you what else you should buy, or you look at a movie and they suggest you the next one you should like. So very similar. So now you have description, creation, and prediction. And so you have the three aspect kind of the mind that you want, right? Supervised learning is a way to train these systems. There are two kinds. There's unsupervised, I mean the machine learn by itself, and supervised means that you prepare a set of data with tagging and train the system based on this data. You give a schema for the machine to use. So we are using supervised learning, not unsupervised. A, um, a large language model active is unsupervised, right? So when you speak with ChatGPT over multiple sessions, it will kind of know you, right? So that's unsupervised learning.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and the supervised learning, you're putting labels in there, and I guess other use cases are like fraud detection, other in security too.
Yeah, these are typical use cases for our customer. There is anti-phishing or avoiding credential stealing or anti-fraud solutions or blocking ransomwares. These are all kind of outcome of using this technology integrated into the security system.
One quick technology question is: in supervised learning, is there a particular model you like, or you use different ones, whether it's decision trees or random forest or a combination? Because I guess for these different patterns, it has a different branches or chains of thought in terms of how they analyze information, right? What have you seen that's kind of worked best for you?
I will not pretend to be expert or know these things. I know the names because I hear them from my team. So I know that we use random forest and belief propagations, but what they are, I have no clue. So take it with a pinch of salt. But they are definitely prescriptive analytics, kind of algorithms that are part of before AI PreCrime.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, once you put in the labels, then you have a different way that the information can be analyzed and you can make decisions from that. Good. Let's go to the next section. So, AI democratization. What do you see as the key challenges and opportunities in making AI accessible to founders and businesses from a variety of industries and experience backgrounds? How can we bridge this gap?
So first of all, I think it's already very accessible, right? If you think about it, you are using OpenAI for $20 a month. I mean, now they came up with a $200 a month, but it's still kind of sort of accessible. On the back of it, you have billions and billions of investment that have been made, right? So I actually think it's relatively accessible. I would say for the future, we will probably see a kind of a split between the people that use AI as a consumption method, like you do a search or you put a phrase and you get an output and you use it as is, and the people that actually will use it as a tool to augment themselves. This in this moment in time, for example, I'm really enjoying, putting a text into for example, Gemini, and then asking question to learn about the text, and then ask the model to ask me question that I should ask it, right? So what I should think about this topic, what other perspective should I consider in this topic? So as a kind of a prompt for your brain to work better. And so I think this is the way where we will see the bifurcation. People that just take, like watching a television, just passively, or people that actually use it to tinker, like programmers and, in the past. Ultimately, it's a great capability. The beauty of it, I think, is that it can teach you to use it better because you can ask a question. I actually see a huge opportunity in learning, in education. If you think about it, you have a new employee joining the company. There is this Agatha agent that we have built that has all the knowledge of the company, and Agatha agent starts suggesting, where the new employee has to start for learning things, and then can ask question to verify if that thing was absorbed properly by the employee, and the employee can ask question to learn better. There is a more interactive one-to-one learning experience. I think it's just going to be fantastic to see this happening in the coming years.
No, you're absolutely right. I think it's also about mindset. I think people just got to get out there and try some things. You are right; it's accessible. I think the hard part is getting to the capital. But as long as you're solving a problem, you're having a good idea, you're able to execute on that, and the capital will come. I've done it myself. As an entrepreneur, I'm using it for ideation, for automation, etc. So I've tested the different ones, whether it's Chat GPT, Claude, Perplexity, Copilot. They do well in different contexts, and I've tried to see what they do well in, right? There's times where I need IT support and sometimes someone can't answer that. I'll go into Copilot and I find out for like certain types of tools and other things, and I'll ask for step-by-step processes, even in accounting or wherever. Perplexity has its benefits, and Claude has a certain way of writing things, especially if you're looking at a marketing perspective. So it's understanding what use cases, but also, as you said, it teaches you to start thinking, and it teaches you have to ask things in a certain way and to refine the way you ask questions, and it makes you a little bit more sophisticated in your thinking and your articulation of doing things, right?
Absolutely. And I think, it's a huge enabler. I think, lately there was, I believe it was the ex-CTO of OpenAI that in an interview said something along the line, artists will disappear, because you don't need to be a photographer now to have a fantastic picture, right? And it was very much criticized by basically saying, why you want to go against humanity and this skill set and so on. But I think the message that she was trying to express is you don't need to be a professional in the usage of tool to express yourself anymore. So if you think about it, why do we like Van Gogh pictures? It's not because he was an extreme professional using the brush, it's because he expressed the concept in that painting, right? So let's look at how many people have something to express, but they don't have the brush competence, right? And so that's what's happening now, right? It's this tooling. And by the way, it's nothing new. It happened, if you think, you remember, maybe you have seen some movies from the past when drawing for engineers was done on this big table with pencils and so on, right? These designers were, literally designing on the paper. That skill is completely gone, right? Today you do it CAD and, other sort of tooling that enable many more people to participate and much better, progress in terms of construction. So I think similarly, we will see, that craft that was required as a preliminary step before you could express yourself, it become less required. Not that it will not be valued, still today, if you want to buy, I don't know, handmade shoes, you will pay them much more than serially made, industry level shoes, right? Why? Because you appreciate that handmade aspect of it. And so for people that want to do the handmade, the photography, the music, and so on, they'll still be able to perfect their craft, and I'm sure they will be appreciated for being unique and human. Meanwhile, we give access to many more people to these capabilities means that they can express themselves, they can see results. I think Sam Altman said that we should expect at some point companies where you have only one employee, like the CEO, and running them at billion-dollar companies. Why not? I mean, you can do this in finance today, with bitcoins and like. Why wouldn't you do it, with other parts of the businesses? So I think it's very exciting. It's scary for if you have a kind of a mentality of thinking that the best thing have happened in the past, but I think there is a good set of people that are more for progress and for the future, and I'm definitely counting me as part of that kind of how they call it, accelerationalism, kind of tendency. And I think it's just fascinating to see all of this coming to fruition. AI has been in the works for like 40 years, right? So for the ones of you that have gray hairs, I had to cut them so you don't see them, but we
I'm
have
trying to show
seen
my
this.
gray hairs actually. I mean, I look younger than I am. I'm older than you, so
I'm not sure about that, but
I'm 51.
okay, so then you are. Well done.
I finally got some gray hair in my beard. So, anyways, no, I have a nuance to that. Because as an entrepreneur, I use different things. I've used things to do social media, and or it opens up the door for that. But honestly, my highest value that I spend my time on, when we talk about high payoff activities, what's your most value? It's really thinking about strategy, go to market strategy, executing on that. And I don't have the and I mean, I can go do the social media and the artistic type stuff. I'm a creative type person, but I'm never going to be a true artist or a true creative, right? So it takes out some time. But I think even when you produce some of the stuff in AI, I think it speeds up the process, just like doing general research, right? But if there's a true creative, they can add a little bit of soul, spirit, energy to that, right? And I think it opens up possibilities. I don't think true artists or creatives will ever disappear if they know how to use the technology in the right way, and it opens up because there's only so much. As I scale my business, am I going to be spending? And sometimes what's produced from the AI, I always believe you need some sort of quality check to make sure something doesn't go off the guardrails, right? There's not something that's offensive or something that's random that's created, because there's a certain bit of randomness, and I guess you can set those parameters on how much randomness you want, but you have to always make sure everything's checked before it's sent out, right?
I think there is a meme going on the social media that says something along the lines of you will never be replaced by AI, you will be replaced by people using AI.
Or if it's something that's really something's really a manual or less productive task, do you really want to be spending your time doing that? You want to open up to the creativity and the decision making. So that leads us to the next question: business scaling. Do you think predictive AI and cybersecurity, can it create the next unicorn by revolutionizing how businesses predict threats and protect themselves?
I'm obviously biased, but as a result, of course, yes. I think the first of all, a bit of a context, right? So security has been a problem since history started. Right? It's Jeff Bezos says start the company for a problem that will still be there 10, 15 years after. Well, security is definitely going to be a problem that will always be there because it's intertwined with the human nature, right? And indeed, now cybersecurity is growing as a need. Why? Because there's been basically digitalization of crime, right? So, like there's been digitalization and transformation of normal businesses and economy, the criminal has followed. So it's not that the crime is increasing, is that the crime is transforming from real life crime into cybercrime. Cybercrime is extremely um, rewarding for the criminals. It's very safe because it's very hard for them to be pinpointed. So all the criminal organization, from mafias to all sorts of cartels and so on, they're all into cybercrime now, big time. And, all the terrorist state, all the bad guys, you find them all, right? So this idea that cybercrime is a guy with a hood in the garage, some dissociated person is not true. The vast majority of crime are organized groups, ransomware as a service, phishing as a service, with affiliates. You find job offering for community manager, tech support operator, those things. I often mention it. Some in the audience, and you probably have watched this series, Stranger Things, on Netflix, right? And they have the upside down. And what is the upside down? It's basically a copy of the real world, but negative, right? Where you have bad guys, and if you get into the upside down, well, you cannot get out of it anymore because it's so, kind of it embrace you, and it causes all sorts of pain and so on. And so the same is with cybercrime. It's the upside down of real life. So like in real life, we have VCs and startuppers and extremely grateful entrepreneurs, and then you have Series A, B, and C, and then you go do SEOs and marketing and all of that. The same exists into cybercrime worlds. You have mafia groups that fund ransomware group that find affiliates that have forums that have all sorts of web forums and dark web to share their products and so on. So it's in all of these contexts, cybersecurity has taken a very reactive path, and so nowadays everybody has to accept to be a victim because you have to assume the breach. You have to do detect and respond. How can you detect something if the attack isn't there yet? Right? So obviously we are kind of in a reactive mode. And I think we do bring this different approach, not necessarily replacing the existing one, because we cannot predict everything. Right? We are not Nostradamus. But for that 95, 98% of the type of attacks that we can predict, well, we do it before the attack happens. And that means that we can spare companies and organization a lot of cost, a lot of pain, a lot of frustration, a lot of stress. And so, yes, I'm very, very positive about it. And it's possible because we can do prescriptive AI, because the data is accessible at a certain speed, the compute resources are at a certain cost. The algorithm evolved thanks to the research. We have four granted patents in the US. So yeah, definitely, hopefully we can make a dent in this evolution of cybercrime. Actually, fun enough, on some of our earlier customers that now are with us since 2, 3 years, we observe what we call a cyber deterrence effect. As we predict this attack and we block them before the attack happens at scale continuously, those criminals go away from our customers because they're basically wasting money, they're wasting energy or wasting time because they put together all this infrastructure, they try to do the attack, and then they get nothing out of it. No victim is made. And so I want to think that, longer term, our vision is really to deter cybercrime, to create a context in which our customers are not even on the radar of the criminal because they're so hard to breach.
Right, and it's not only just the criminals too. There's a gray area where there's nation states, spy agencies, corporate espionage. Those types of things. So that leads us into the next question, really. You know, how can AI predict cyber threats to build a security citadel without creating a false sense of security where a business is trapped in its own walls? You think about, medieval times and stuff like, oh, the castle's going to protect us, right? And then a large army comes and you're kind of trapped in your own walls and there's no escape. So how do we avoid that kind of situation, right?
Yeah, I honestly don't think that is a risk. Unfortunately, criminals are extremely innovative and they will come up with new threat vector. Deepfake videos, for example, at the moment is the one that is accelerating very, very fast. So, we will not have respite. I think, the critical factor has to be to still grow the awareness of the risk with people, right? So in cybersecurity, we talk about people, process, and tools. Not any single one of these can fix the problem. You need to operate on the three level. You need to train people, give them awareness, create doubt, help them see the risk. You need the processes to ensure that, if the people miss it, then the process catch it. And then you want tools to make all of this scalable, automated, the most effective as possibly can be. And so I think, I don't see, sort of, how to say, um, comfort creation coming from predictive security. Predictive security is always going to be one of the layer of a cybersecurity strategy. Ideally, the one that stopped the most of the attack, so that the detection and response that tend to be more expensive, more critical, can focus on the attacks that really require that capability. Another fact is, many are realizing now that these skills of running a cybersecurity team and be part of the team are very hard to learn. It takes a long time, a lot of experience, and so there is a shortage in the market of those, expert people. Now there is a ton of entry level people because in the last few years everybody's been saying, oh, there are 4 million empty jobs, in cybersecurity. So there's been kind of an avalanche of people getting into boot camps and certification and what have you. And now they're not finding jobs because that entry level layer is actually very slim in cybersecurity. It's the senior layer that is missing. And the problem is that it's not easy to form because it takes time to become experienced. And so the opportunity of a new technology like predictive security is actually to reduce the requirement for that expertise so that the experts that are in the market and the entry level that are catching up can be sufficient while technology part of it.
Yeah, no, I think the trick now is like really on the deep fake aspect where they actually try to reach out to an individual, because I've heard of folks where they get a call from the CEO or the CFO and saying, wire me, I'm in an emergency, wire me $10,000, whatever, and people do it. And so you got to make sure those kind of situations are taken care of. I have an interesting story too. Someone had reached out to me for a fractional COO position. So like, and they said, okay, you need to contact this person on a Skype number. So it was a Skype conversation. It was an interview that went on Skype for about 2 or 3 hours while I was working. I was like, asking me all these deep questions. They sent me to the web page, and the web page looked real. And then they told me they're the head of AI research, and I had the person's picture, but there's something a little bit off about the picture. I'm like, because I'm in the space, right? I go, that looks like AI-ish. Anyway, so then the conversation was fine, but I started this like weird sense something was wrong. And then out of the blue, it started asking me some random questions. Like I said, I have to go because it's like 2 or 3 hours. I have work to do, blah, blah, blah. And then they contacted me back. Oh, I need to go walk my dog. And they said, can you send me pictures? And I was like, oh, wait, something's wrong here. And then some of the questions were slightly off and it got a little personal. And then I actually asked it at some point, are you a real person or an AI? And it got offended. So you don't believe I'm a real person? And it got too offended. And then it contacted me. I didn't answer the phone because I was working out. Then it contacted me again. I'm saying it. And then it called me on a video call, and there was a woman on a video call, but something was off about it too. Like in your own mind as a human, you have your own pixel version of what reality should look like. You can kind of tell when something's
Sure.
AI, right? And it just bothered me. And then just the response pattern, it was off, right? So, and but that's for now. And I'm a little bit more sophisticated person, but somebody else could have fallen for that. But it's going to get way better than that later. I probably just told somebody out there, that situation. They're trying to figure out how to solve that problem. But, we have to be so careful.
First of all, anyone can be a victim. It doesn't matter, you are expert, you are, careful, you're doubtful. It doesn't matter. These criminals do their best to trick you. It's their art. They're con artists, and they'll win. And that's why it's so important to never blame the victim. Right? It's any one of us. Me first can be a victim here. It doesn't matter how good you are with technology or not. The second thing, and I think I want to be hopeful in this deepfake problem is going to explode. This is already exploding. We have heard one or two stories in the newspapers, but actually the underground is much, 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 much more wider problem that people think. Obviously we see it with our customers. We hear it from them as well. And part of it is that generally victims do not like reports. So less than 30% of the actual cybercrime is reported. And so obviously, especially on these new technologies and new techniques, victim organization prefer to keep it to themselves. So what will happen, I think, is that people will start to doubt of everything online. Now, some think that this is a bad thing because it will reduce, I don't know, e-commerce or stuff like that. I think it's a good thing. Probably we have become too trusting of the online content. And these has created challenges with disinformation, misinformation, all sorts of fakes, social media influence and so on, right? Doubt is a good thing, right? So if you are on a conversation with someone and you doubt that they are real, well, pick up the phone and call them, or write them an email, see if they answer, right? This is the best, easy human firewall kind of things you can do. Switch medium. You get a message from your mother on WhatsApp, call them back. You get an email from your father, write them on Slack. Always switch medium to the next one you pick. That's very important. If they say please call me on this number, don't do that. It's it's very easy that they can control that. But if you switch medium, it's extremely hard for the criminal to be on multi-medium ownership of especially if they are doing impersonations. And so this is the kind of advice I give to my mother, my parents, any friends. Always switch medium side where you want, and this way it's kind of a multi-factor authentication. It's very easy to do, but also doubt of the others online, because with the quality of the technology that we have already now and it's coming, is not the human eyes or the human senses that will be able to spot the fake. Technology is coming. We are working on our version of it, but it's we need to train people to doubt more of the online content.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's great advice because a lot of these scams, even before AI, these scammers would call people that are on, visas or immigration type stuff and say, do not get off the phone. We have the FBI waiting outside. If you not wire $5,000, $10,000, you're going to go to jail. So they try to make sure you don't switch mediums. So that's advice to the audience is anybody says that, you know, it's a scam, right? Nobody should be doing that. No one should be calling you like that. And, that's what I like about the blockchain world is the whole concept of a trustless society, right? Or no, or it's a trustless environment, right? And you don't have to trust because it's in the protocol, right? So that leads me to the next question. Maybe you can talk a little bit deeper, especially for the techies in the audience. Is there anything we've talked a little about technology, but is there any other underlying technology or architecture that's used to predict and secure against attacks, or where are you headed in that aspect too? Maybe in some of the technology.
Yeah, I think the part that is, we talk often about prediction because that's where we started, and it's kind of our secret sauce that enable us to be one step ahead of the criminals. But we're really, really proud of the partnership we have with our disruption partners. So we work with Google, we work with Quad9 DNS, we work with VirusTotal, CrowdStrike, many others, so that in less than 5 minutes from our prediction, we can actually stop the communication toward that malicious infrastructure at an internet scale. So what that means, it means that, let's say that you are a customer of a bank, and this bank is our customer, and they've asked us to protect their users, and we identify an impersonation against the users, so a phishing attack. By the time the phishing campaign arrives to the client of the bank, and they click a link or scan the QR code, that infrastructure they cannot reach. They will get the red page from Google, say, hey, this is a phishing link, or they get blocked by the DNS resolver and not resolve. And that's we actually measure it every day, more than 20 million potential victims averted, thanks to BforeAi, fraud and scams. And of course, we're still a relatively small company. We have fantastic customers that have huge reach, but we want to have more. So, the part that is most exciting to me is really that we make the life of the criminal very, very miserable because they don't get anything out of these attacks. And so our mission is really to continue grow and ensure that we disrupt more and more of this criminal activity with pre-crime before any victim is made.
Right. And phishing with a PH, phishing is sending a link or trying to find some way for the person to get the person's information so they can get some sort of credentials to access other systems, right? Or their information or data. Or
Where the victim is the fish
yeah,
in this case.
exactly. So that's a good way
So
to
they
put it in
send
everyone's mind.
kind of a lure. There
A
could be an
hook.
email,
They're sending a
a
hook.
hook, yeah,
Click
a
on this
website,
link, or
exactly WhatsApp message, a Telegram message, a text. the deepfake video with
Yeah,
reshaping.
or
So
they
there are
say
all
your
sort of
mom's
media.
been, or they say Jimmy's been in an accident, and they have a link to a
Yeah,
newspaper or a video, and Jimmy wasn't in an accident. Text Jimmy to find out. Were you
absolutely.
in an accident before you click on that link? So, anyway,
Totally.
that leads us
Go buy
to
the gift cards.
yeah, yeah, gift cards, etc. The royalty from a foreign country, wants to drop $1 million into your account. Never, none of that stuff, right? So, how can predictive AI and cybersecurity be both powerful and ethical? Are we creating the digital watchdogs or even Frankensteins that might turn on us? Or, so I think it's an important question we always have to have is like, how do we, what's your thoughts on ethical and responsible AI? And hopefully we're not turning this into some metaphorical Frankensteins, right?
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, I very often have this remark because we are inspired by Minority Report, and for the one that have watched the movies, it is an ethical dilemma, right? The use of pre-crime and the false positive causing a alleged person to be accused. So first of all, we don't do law enforcement. So we don't go to the extreme of putting people in jail or do anything like that. The second thing is we do not do offensive security. So we're not going on the infrastructure of the criminal and shutting it down. That means that if we make a mistake, we're not going to shut down something that is legit. But we work with a global set of partners to inform them that their user, their customer are either at risk or are the source of the problem. So there is always this third party control of the partners that is, in the chain. But nevertheless, it's clear that this technology could be used in different ways, right? So you look at China, for example, and all the social credit system that they have and all the images that they take into about their population. You could argue that some of this technology could be applied there. I can tell you that at the moment this does not work in real life. Pre-crime has you know it works for us because we have a very limited playground that is the protocols of the internet or the deepfake protocols and so on and so forth. But yeah, you could argue that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, with more research, we will be in real life as well. And definitely I see it as an opportunity for BforeAi to be there. I think between now and then, definitely the conversation on the ethical aspect has to happen. Now, in Europe, as usual, we have innovated, and the AI Act that was passed last year actually to say forbid using pre-crime in real life. So we can do it because we don't look at people or personal identities, but technically it's forbidden for policing or other law enforcement use, or unless you request specific authorizations and the like. Um, that may be a little bit too extreme because it starts, before we even understand what we can or cannot do with this technology. But I think some regulation will have to, exist. Laws exist so that without going to the extreme of the act, something will have to come up. Um, Ultimately, there is always this conundrum, right? If it's not us from a defending and lawful use of this technology that do it, somebody else will do it with offensive and negative approach. So we should make sure that the ethical concern doesn't stifle the innovation, because otherwise the non-ethical people will take precedence.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Because also you have to balance the concept of human free will. And do they actually, commit a crime? That goes back in, like, you can't always predict that. But then you have to balance security. Like, you don't want to wait till, because you're concerned about profiling people, right? Especially minority groups or certain types of groups. But then also when it comes to, like, say, terrorism or whatever, you don't want to wait till the bomb goes off. So you have to have some sort of pre-crime type aspects, or if another nation state decides to attack another nation state. So you have to find that right balance, right? Of, free will versus fatality or mortality of somebody, right? Okay. No, that's good. I think it's also from a business perspective, it's always good to take a step back. I think before you launch AI, to understand the governance model, what are the guardrails, how are you going to, who's going to have access to what are the sources of data, how are they going to be used? I've said this before. There's your personal data, there's the company data, There's first is general data that can be put out, personal data, company data, and the client data, right? And especially in the medical area, you have to be very careful with that, putting in, the medical information, et cetera, HIPAA violations, et cetera. So, okay. I think, we're coming up on time, so we're doing great. So what do you see as the top trends in 2025?
I would say that we will still with obviously the continuous evolution of this large language model is number one, but I think a new version of them will become more prevalent. This the Frugal, what is called the Frugal AI. So the models that can run on very little resources, primarily because you want to push these models at the edge of a network, within devices that are not necessarily very powerful, like a security camera outside your house. You want to have PreCrime running into it eventually, right? um, the car, you want to have autonomous driving without necessarily having to wait for the connectivity to the data center. So I think we will see more push on not only on generative AI and the actual operationalization and productization of it, but the emergence of this small language model or frugal AI, or whatever you want to call it, that enable the use of this technology without the immense resources of an OpenAI data center or a Microsoft Azure data center and so on and so forth, right? But running more in ideally in your phone, potentially even less than that. I think that's definitely something that I expect coming up. Um, from a cybersecurity perspective, I think definitely the year of predictive security and preemptive security, not because we are part of it, but because the analysts are forecasting this to be the next wave. And, everybody can hear it in the news. The reactive cybersecurity solution are not enough. There's, so many victims, so many data leaks. So there is interest in innovation like ours to kind of bring a new fight against the criminal.
Yep. Luigi, I think this has been an amazing conversation. It's been eye-opening. I think we can talk about AI and cybersecurity and predictive analytics and, how to build businesses in the AI space. We're coming up on time, but for our listeners, where's the best place where they can learn more about Before AI or connect with you?
So for BforeAi, just go on our website, www.before.ai, like I have written here, so without the first E. For me, LinkedIn, so Luigi Lenguito, there is only one, so it's not very hard. If you want to try the product, it's demo.before.ai. If you want to see more explanation or some other introduction videos, before.ai/video. And definitely interested in continuing the conversation and be engaged and learn from others as well.
Cool. And before you go out, any final thoughts for those that are just getting started in this space, kind of struggling to scale their business? Some final thoughts from you.
I would say, first of all, just do something, as in, don't overthink and over engineer your solution. Find pain that your potential customer have, understand that pain very, very well, and then solve the pain. Don't focus on a technology that you may be passionate about if you don't know what is the pain that is being solved, not even the problem, right? For me, the scale is the most important thing is the pain that your buyer will have. That generally is caused by a problem. That problem needs a solution. So that's the sequence for an entrepreneur has to be identify the pain, be very, very, very passionate about that pain. That gives them the purpose to then find the solution for the problem that generate the pain. When you have doubts, speak and ask questions to your potential customers. That's always kind of the right place to start for any solution.
Awesome. This has been fantastic. Everyone make sure to check out and connect with Luigi Lenguito. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and find us on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple. Man, I've learned so much from this episode, and I can't thank you enough, Luigi, for sharing your insights with us today. I'm your host, Sanjay Kalluvilayil, founder and CEO of Stonehaas Advisors. I hope you gained a wealth of game-changing insights and security insights to grow, transform, and scale to new levels and dimensions leveraging AI. Thanks a lot, Luigi.
Thank you, Sanjay, and thanks to the audience.
See you all next time.